Welcome to the Leslie Monday Podcast, a show for lovers of all things science fiction in books, TV, and movies. Each week, we'll review something new or dive into an old favorite. So come join me. I'm Leslie, and it's Monday. Monday podcast. I'm Leslie, and today we are going to be talking about The Expanse Season 5, Episode 6, Tribes. Now, before we get into today's review, I wanted to let you know I just received confirmation that the podcast is now on iHeartRadio. So if you or someone you know use that app or prefer to listen there, I'm on there now, so tell all your friends. Also, the announcement for the show that we'll be watching next after The Expanse will be at the end of the podcast, so you are going to have to stick around a while if you want that announcement. Okay, so let's start off today's review with Holden. This episode, we just kind of get a quick touch base with Jim here. We see that they have cleared the code from the Rossi reactor, and they're getting ready to take the Rossi out after the Zemia. Bull and Monica are coming along, and we see a message from Naomi pop up on Jim's board, that board there in his office that's labeled "If Something Goes Wrong." I kind of want to know if he opened that message or not, after we cut away, or if he's holding on to it like he doesn't think it's that bad yet that he shouldn't open it just yet. But that's really all that we kind of get from Holden and the Rossi team in this episode, so hopefully we'll see more of them next time. The second person we're going to check in with is Avasarala, and we see her here in what I think is probably like the first moment that she's had to grieve, to like let her guard down. She has been going nonstop, hard at work, trying to stop this disaster. That this is probably the first moment we've seen that she's had to like sit and breathe and just have a moment to let everything sink in. She tries to call Arjun again and is interrupted by our new Secretary General, David Pastor. And of course, he wants her to be on his cabinet, and knowing all that she did to stop the attacks. And first impressions of him, he seems like a reasonable guy. He's getting good people around him, and hopefully it all works out with this guy. I like that we got confirmation that Avasarala's daughter and grandkids are safe. So hopefully she won't be, real alone up there on Luna. I think one of the sad things about seeing that scene when she was trying to call Arjun is just kind of that realization of just how alone she has been up there. Knowing how she left her relationship with her husband at the end of last season, and just they were kind of in a bad place. Even her daughter Ashanti, when we see her there, she's telling her like, I think everybody around her is kind of trying to like let her know, it's time to move on from your position. Kind of like when the kids need to take the keys from mom or dad because they're getting too old to be driving anywhere. They're kind of telling her like it's time, you need to retire, come back to Earth, and things like that, which we know, of course, if she had done that, she probably would have been dead too, and there probably would have been all 9 rocks hitting Earth. But it's just a sad thing to kind of see, and you realize that she really is all alone up there. She's like burned all her professional contacts. She probably doesn't have any social contacts and friends left. That like all she has left is just that position. So it is nice to know that her daughter and the grandkids are okay, and they will be joining her up there, so she won't be there alone. And we see that Bobby and Alex did survive the explosion. Yay! I didn't think that they would deviate from the storyline there, just knowing that season 5 had wrapped, but you never know. They could always do clever things in post and editing sometimes, and you just never know what they're going to do. But I like how we came into this scene like panning over the Razorback and how good the effects look on the Razorback. When it panned over, did you see that design? I don't know what you call it, but it's like it was like right in a row, and it had different like planes, different kinds of flying planes. It was all like leading up to the kind of ship that the Razorback is. I just thought that was a really cool detail. And again, the effects on it were really great. And of course, we get Bobby in her power armor as the Belchers try and take the ship. And of course, she easily turns them back. And while she's doing that, Alex is jumping over through space to their ship to set a grenade on their drive. Now, that jump back, though, was so scary because, like, you're just jumping out into space. He doesn't have anything. Like, he's not. This isn't like the Jetsons. He doesn't have a jetpack, you know? He's just kind of aiming himself towards the Razorback and jumping off into space in that moment when it leaves the screen, you know, and it's leaving his view because we're seeing from his point of view, and there's nothing but the blackness of space in front of him. Oh my god, how scary would that be? And you think, oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to turn around? How am I going to try and, you know, direct myself back towards the ship? That was terrifying, but of course we see that he does get the ship when it spins back around because of the shape of the Razorback. He still makes it, but there for a second you're like, oh my god, he's gonna float off into space and Bobby's gonna have to rescue him. And we can't gloss over Bobby being so amazing in that power armor that she basically gets like her Captain America moment, holding the two ships together with the assistance of that power armor for as long as she can. It was really great. You know, Captain America and Winter Soldier holding the helicopter and the building at the same time. It was amazing. That was such an amazing shot for her. And again, she's amazing. Now, the next two pieces are really the meat of this week's episode, and it's where we spend the most time with them. And I'm going to start with Amos and Melba, but I'm going to kind of squish Drummer, Naomi, Marco, Philip, all of them all into one, because I think it kind of works that way, and a lot of it's all taking place around the same sort of set on the Pella, so I'm just going to kind of squish all of that together. Okay, so we're going to start with Amos and Melba, and we see them on their way to Baltimore. They're basically in a disaster movie now, you know, like Day After Tomorrow kind of thing. I honestly thought when they gave us that scene where they're crossing the bridge that they were going to be confronted by somebody on the other side of the bridge, like waiting for tribute or a toll, you know, like you just pay to cross my bridge. But that didn't happen, so I guess it was just a really cool shot. But I remember thinking when I'm watching this, like the very first thing that popped in my head was like, okay, where's the guys gonna pop out that are gonna demand tribute for, you know, they're crossing their bridge now, you know, this is my bridge, you gotta pay to come across. But it was a cool shot when they peeled out, when they panned back and you just see like the bridge in the middle and the woods on the two sides with them going over it. It was a cool shot. We see a lot of interesting friendship building from Amos and Melba this episode, and at the end of book 3, the Rossi crew takes Melba back to Earth for her trial, and she and Amos develop their friendship there working together in the machine shop. But we actually didn't get to see any of that in season 3 or at the beginning of season 4, so it's nice that we get to go back and kind of see it here, that they're developing friendship. I guess movie-wise we could say that the Rossi probably took her back and maybe they developed a friendship there. That's why she called him at the beginning of season 4. But it's one thing when stuff happens off screen in a visual medium like TV or movies, and it's another when you actually get the screen time to see it. And it's just nice to get the screen time to see them building up their friendship here. And it's really funny in like a really sad way how everything that's happened to Amos in his life has left him like really prepared and knowledgeable for this kind of disaster situation survival in this world. And it's really clear through the conversations they have too that like, you know, and they're talking about the conservancy zone and they're walking through this forest. And she's asking him, well, you didn't ever have to come here and plant a tree and learn about the carbon cycle and stuff. And he's like, no. And, you know, just that stark difference in their childhoods and things that they had to do. And he even says it himself at one point when they're talking that civilization keeps you civil. And he basically grew up like this. And now everybody's playing catch up. And, you know, it's the churn again that he always talks about. So when they're trekking through the forest and they've picked that jacket and shoes off the dead guy, they make it to that doomsday prepper and they end up killing him to take his stuff and the food that they need. And when they're talking about that, Melba makes a really good point to him that, this guy was a creep. To him, I mean Amos. That this doomsday prepper guy, he was a creep, but what would they have done if he hadn't been? That they went out of their way to murder him and take his stuff, and that's not how good people live, or even how bad ones who are trying to be good people live. And Amos realizes, she's right, obviously, and he recognizes that this isn't something Holden would have done, and that he needs to get back to his crew. Just this whole pairing with Melba, it's really nice to see Amos paired with a character that I kind of see more similar to him. And when I say pairing, I don't mean romantically or anything like that. I mean screen time. That the screen time that we're seeing this piece of their story, they're paired together, that we're seeing them together. It's not necessarily a romantic relationship, okay? But it's nice because I think she's probably the most similar character to him. And I know arguments can be made for Naomi, and I don't know how much background we get about Anna, but I just feel how people can be unequally yoked, in friendships or relationships and things like that. I feel like Amos and Melba are an equally yoked friendship, and it's really nice to see that friendship. And I think they're both different representations of difficult lives and difficult things to go through. Amos, obviously, kind of, I don't want to say there's a top or a bottom, but there's a spectrum, right? And everything he went through was a really difficult and hard life. But equally, Melba had a difficult and hard life, but on a different scale, on a different piece of the spectrum. And I think a lot of people roll their eyes or invalidate all of her experiences because she grew up wealthy. How could you possibly have anything to complain about mentality? But I think that's the suffering Olympics mentality. And that's really useless, and it doesn't serve to help anybody when, it's when you're invalidating someone's experience. It doesn't matter if they were in a gilded cage or if they were on the street, they still had this bad experience. And you can't just invalidate that because of the setting. And suffering Olympics is really a useless thing to do. But they've both made choices in their individual situations. And as we know, they've both killed people and are self-aware to question themselves and their motives. Melda tells us how frightened she is of how certain she was that everything that she was doing was right, and how right it felt when she was doing it. And just the two of them are just that nice pairing. They play off each other really well, just character-wise, and then both of the actors, they work really well together. When we first see Amos, he's basically Naomi's lapdog. He's a puppy. He follows her around. He does whatever she says, no questions asked. And then when he's on his own for a bit, he really struggles with making decisions and making the right decisions. And we see him kind of form a friendship with Prax, but that's an unequal friendship for him. And it's the same thing with Anna. Anna is more of a good and pure, righteous Holden type character. Again, this friendship with Melba just feels really right. It feels really equal. And at least to me, maybe, I don't know, maybe did you like him paired with a different character better? And again, just to reiterate, when I'm saying paired, I don't mean just in a romantic relationship way. I'm meaning storyline and also the screen time that we're getting, that they are paired together on the screen a lot. Anyway, I don't know. I just love this Amos Melba pairing. I liked it in the books. It made a lot of sense too to me there, that this is the equal friendship for him. I feel like for him, Naomi and Holden are kind of the ideals he wants to try and live up to, and even Anna's that ideal he wants to try and live up to. I don't know if he would see Prax that way, but they definitely seem like the people on the pedestal, kind of when we see in that episode, the Churn, and he's talking to Lydia. It's the young Amos and Lydia. She's talking about, we can pretend that we're good people type of thing. That's the goal that he's trying to get to try and move past where he's come from and everything he's done. And I don't know. Again, I like the pairing. I'm rambling on and circling now, so we'll move forward. But yeah, if you liked him with a different character better, or you wanted to see like maybe a whole more season of like him and Anna, trying to save the world, let me know your thoughts and what you think. Okay, so that leaves us with the big drummer, Marco, Naomi, Philip, Sin, Carol, everything sort of revolving around the Pella sort of scenes. And I'm just going to kind of, like I said, just kind of squish them together, maybe somewhat in order of how they happen in the episode. But I'm just going to, again, squash them and, and give you all my thoughts on them at the same time here. So that opening conflict with Marco, Philip, and Sin was really interesting. I'm not sure if I think Marco would have really had Philip space Naomi or not. I think if Naomi dies, he wants it to be on his terms. Like, if she had been on the Rossi and it had exploded, like, that would have been on his terms, right? Like, he planned that, so she would have died on his terms. Now she's like one of his possessions or playthings, kind of on display, like a status symbol for him, for everyone on the Pella to see, that I don't know if he would have just had Philip spacer. He might have. I don't know if Philip would have volunteered that he wanted to. That might have played to what Marco would want. I'm not entirely certain how I feel about it. Like if Marco would have had him do it, or if Marco would just want to see that he was willing to do it, but not actually have him space her. I don't know, because I feel like a lot of that conversation was Marco kind of testing the waters to see where he stands with Philip and Sin, how they feel, because he knows the influence that Naomi's presence can have on them. And I really liked seeing Sin stand up to Marco, and all in front of the crew, too, seeing how everyone's reacting. Most of them seemed really surprised. I don't know if that's just they're surprised to see that Sin lost his temper, or they're surprised to see anyone at all dare stand up to Marco, and that's interesting, because I don't know that we've gotten a definitive on that, if anybody else has dare stand up to Marco. And of course, after that confrontation, like, Philip goes straight to Naomi, and I think that you can see, or at least I hope, that he's thinking about things and maybe realizing he doesn't have the full story on anything. He seems surprised when Sin said it wasn't the first time that he and Marco have fought, and it wouldn't be the first time if they'd come to blows. And I think Naomi's still trying to get through to him. She's still trying to save him. She's still trying to impress upon him. You've got to understand, Marco truly only cares for himself, even though he says he says all the right things. He talks a good talk. He can even walk a good walk. But at the end of the day, he doesn't care about, all these other lives. Truly, he really cares more for himself. And she says, I know he wouldn't die for you, but he would let you die for him. And, like, that's really powerful, She's like, just let that sentence really sink in, especially when, like, it's your mom telling you, your dad would let you die for him, but he will not die for you. That's pretty powerful. And Philip didn't have anything to say. He just kind of walked away. I hope that he's really starting to think about things and letting all of that really sink in. So we get the second meeting of Marco and Drummer, and he is feeling so smug. You can see it on his face as they walk in, but I love the back and forth here between them, and how Marco says it's a war and I won, and Drummer just throws that back in his face like, I must have missed the offer of surrender, because, like, she knows this isn't over. Earth and Mars, they might be regrouping or licking their wounds, but they're gonna retaliate one way or the other, and they might negotiate, but neither of those options has happened, so she knows that this whole thing is not anywhere near over. I also think, did anybody else notice, did he seem, or at least I thought, maybe that's me interpreting, but I thought Marco seemed a little surprised when Drummer asked him if he knew about the song Ashford had sung when Marco spaced him, because it was only Marco and Philip there to space him. And he picked over Ashford's ship. He took all the comm buffers and everything, and yet for all of that, Ashford, like, still outwitted him and was able to get that message out to Drummer, and Drummer, again, was clever enough to find it, and he missed it. So it's not like a huge thing in the grand scheme of everything, but I don't know. I just kind of thought when she asked him, there was like that flicker of like, what? You know, like I missed this, or somebody missed this, and you know, she knew exactly that song that he was singing when he died, because literally there was nobody else there. So how could she know unless Ashford got a message out? And it's just one of those like little chinks in the armor, little chips in his master plan as the savior of the belt. But I just kind of thought he had like a flicker of irritation and surprise when she said that. Did you have a different take? You know, like let me know what you thought, because I might just be interpreting things by how I want to want to read them, but that's what I thought when she said that. He had like a irk moment, you know. And when Oksana and Joseph asked about the food and the live soil and the complex biologicals, did you see Drummer's eye roll as Marco gives his answer? Like, she knows what's up, man. Like, he has these numbers and estimates from the scientists who worked on Ganymede, and he delivers them with such confidence. Like, there's no need to worry. We'll be thin for a couple years, sure, but we'll be fine. And here's a spot that I don't actually mind giving you just like a tiny, teensy weensy little bit of book spoilers, just a taste. I'm going to keep it small, but the numbers aren't with him. It's going to be a problem. Keep an eye on it. So, yeah, we'll just move right past that because I could go into a little bit more, but we're gonna just whoosh, and do Marco versus Drummer here, just in this episode general, is an interesting look at, I think, at two different viewpoints, and they're kind of looking at the same basic problems, like independence for the belt, peace with Earth and Mars, etc. You know, being able to take care of themselves, like the belt being able to take care of itself. And what I see with Drummer and characters like Fred and Ashford, especially Fred building Tycho, is people who understand the bigger picture and long-term gain. You know, results and change may not be coming as fast as they would want, but they are coming, and they're building up the infrastructure for the belt to be independent. And this is key, to be independent successfully. And I just want to stress that again, to be independent successfully. Okay, that's why they're focused on building up the infrastructure, on building these stations, on getting more equal rights and education for the belters. Because the more infrastructure they build up, the more that they can take care of themselves, that when the time comes, they can be independent successfully. Okay, and again, that's just, you know, that's my soapbox stance on it. But that's the key difference between what people like Drummer, Ashford, and Fred, and even maybe a little bit of Anderson Dawes on Ceres Station. That is the biggest key difference of what they're trying to do versus what Marco is doing here, which is basically that immediate gratification. I need results now. Little, if no thought given to long-term plans. Fly by the seat of our pants. We'll figure it out as I go. No infrastructure in place to take care of anything. Like, he's proclaiming to everyone, oh yes, I've freed the belt. But have you? You know, have you? Where's the food, the medicine, water, laws, you know, things like that, this infrastructure to actually take care of your people, government, you know, etc., etc. The questions go on, all of the details. Like, has he given any thought to that? I mean, we see that he answers Oksana and Joseph's question with just like this, oh, I've talked to such and such scientist who worked at Ganymede. But as I hinted, those numbers aren't with him. But, you know, we don't see him actually, like, setting up anything. You know what I mean? Are they setting up a nation of the belt on these different stations? It doesn't seem like they've given any long-term thought to how they're going to successfully keep the belt independent and taking care of itself. And to me, that's the major difference between the strategies of trying to go around and achieve independence for the belt between what he's doing and what Fred and Drummer and Ashford and, like I said, even Anderson Dawes were trying to do. Now, granted, you kind of need a little bit of both sides. Like, you need that sense of urgency from the kind of Marco people to make change so that the planners don't just get bogged down in details and planning and never actually take any action. But the other side of it, the planning and the patience to build, is also really key to it. You have to have both. You can't just have one or the other. That that patience to build something that lasts, you can see that all through our history, like Genghis Khan, the Roman Empire. It all breaks down when the king or empire dies. There's chaos again. And then, maybe there's a little bit of stability when the next guy comes in. It's kind of like George Washington stepping down from being president after 2 terms in order to make sure that the country that they had spent all this time building would have the ability to know how to move forward without him, that the democracy would last without him and not just fall apart the instant that, the great George Washington is gone. Like, do you really see Marco doing any of that? Like, he wants this great empire of the belt to survive after he's gone. I kind of think he wants to be the great emperor, I mean. He doesn't care so much about after he's gone. He might care, like, in the general sense of he wants the belt to continue to be independent, but he's a little more concerned about himself and his own legacy. So you can see where people in the belt would look at Anderson Dawes or Fred as collaborating with the Inners, but what I see is people trying to build something that's going to survive them. Marco is action, that immediate gratification with no thought or ability to handle the actual burdens of rule and things that are going to befall them. Like, when is the food getting low? Are they going to now be the new thugs in town? They're going to shake down Earth and Mars for everything they need when they need more? And how long would that realistically last? The threat of throwing another rock or using some sort of proto-molecule bomb, how long is that going to last before Earth and Mars don't see that as a credible threat anymore and are going to come after you? It never really works when you try and make yourself the next king of the hill, because, humans in our fallacy, whenever we try to make ourselves the next king of the hill, we always do it by knocking down people who are there. Instead of, like, trying to everybody step up a level, we always want to push down whoever is there and put ourselves on top. So it's just an endless cycle, and it just goes on and on and on. All right, now that's enough of that. I'm sure you're all like, that's enough of that, Leslie. You've, philosophizing and whatnot. Like, let's just move on and get on with it. So did you see again how smug Marco looked when he introduced Philip to Drummer? Like, he was like the cat's grin. He loved parading him out there, especially in front of Drummer after their season 4 confrontation. But then immediately how irritated he was because, Philip is asking questions about his mom. And then after that, he immediately again goes back to Naomi to ask her to tell him about the behemoth, because we see Marco listening to them through the security cam because she's in the brig. And of course, Marco's so angry, he's pissed off. He goes straight back to plotting and scheming because he does not like her having an influence on Philip at all. Okay, so I know I kind of went all over the place with that today, but those are my thoughts about the episode. Let me know, what did you think about this episode? How do you think everything's going to turn out for our characters at the end of the season? Where are they going to end up? Because this is episode 6. We have 4 episodes left. I do know, at this time, I do know the finale has come out. I haven't watched it yet. I have watched up to the finale. I'm saving that for after I finish the next 3 episodes. But where do you think it's all going to turn out? Do you think it's going to turn out good, turn out bad? Do you think they're going to set up season 6 really well? Or you're just dreading everything that's to come? Okay, so I know you've been waiting and you want to know what's the next show, who won the poll, tell us. Okay, so I'm going to give you the totals of the votes. This is the totals from the 2 polls and a couple of in-person votes. So the next show that we will be watching is Travelers. So Travelers had 5 votes. Altered Carbon and Away each had 2. So Travelers looks like it's 3 seasons, and I'm guessing like 34 episodes, 35 episodes. I'm going to go ahead and do them in episode by episode format. So after we wrap up The Expanse Season 5, we will be moving over to Travelers. And I hope that you'll come with us for that journey. And again, this is one of those where I've never seen the show, so I don't know what to expect, anything besides the little blurb that I read to you a couple episodes ago. It looks interesting, and I'm intrigued by the premise, so I'll be giving you my thoughts as a first-time noob to the show. Haven't seen it, don't know anything about it. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode and are looking forward to Travelers. Be sure to go over to Critics Not Cynics for our our WandaVision reviews. If you're watching that show, you definitely check out our reviews of them. And we are going to be watching the rest of the Marvel shows as well. So once WandaVision is over, I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the next one. So we'll definitely be watching that one too. You can find all my social media handles at my site, LaLunsford.com, LALUNSFORD.com, or you can write into the Leslie Monday Podcast at gmail.com. And I hope you have a great week. Until next time.